yourself.
This sounds like...
I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life.
Camera is gone.
As a part of a family of explorers of consciousness, I'm the void.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Oh, broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. Hello, Void Walkers. I've decided to start the show even though you cannot see me on the video. I don't know why my camera's not working. It's just not working. I don't know what the hell's going on. So, but the show must go on. We're live on the Fringe FM. We're live everywhere. I'm in the void behind the moon. If you're watching on video, I thought I was going to try to do a little experiment tonight. And this is so weird. This is why I'm late, because it was working, then it wasn't working, then it was working, and then I got some kind of weird glitch from YouTube saying, "Oh well, let's see. Hold on, I might." Some weird glitch that said YouTube's not receiving yet. YouTube was receiving. Still yet, no camera. I don't know. I just don't know anymore. Maybe my computer's taking a dookie, right? What's up, Dan? What's up, Dan, Jenny, Jane, Gypsy Jenny, and all the lurkers out there? So I had, what I want to do is, this is what I want to do. First, I'm going to try to fix this camera thing. And then I figured we could listen to them and rotate, and talk about it. But what I really wanted to do later in the show, which is a kind of an experimental thing. I mean, this is weird, isn't it? Might as well just watch the screen. There you go. Kind of like an experimental thing is, you guys know Gareth, our friend Gareth, right? So our friend Gareth, who has ALS, can't really speak. And I want you guys to hear his voice so bad. Not his actual voice, but what he says and how cool he is, right? Like he's just a cool dude. So I asked him, I said, Gareth, can I take our conversations and the questions I've asked you and things like that, you and Richard, and put you on the show? I'll use a voice that just like you, you know? And he said, absolutely. You know, he thinks it's a cool idea. So that's coming up in the show, and it might be a total flop, but I at least want you to get to hear our conversations, right? Just between me and him about the OBE stuff, because ALS it's a tough thing, like if you think about it, this out of body experience thing could be super important for people that have, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, known as ALS, right? It's a nervous system disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and the spinal cord. So you lose muscle control, and it gets kind of worse over time, but they're working on treatments and stuff. Sometimes it's been called like Lou Gehrig's disease. So the exact cause of it, they don't know. But it often begins with like muscle twitching and weakness in the arms or legs, trouble swallowing, slurred speech, and eventually ALS affects control of the muscles needed to move to speak, and then eating and breathing. And it's awful if you think about it. So you have like trouble walking, you start tripping and falling, then you get weakness in the legs, and then your hands start to get weak, and it's sometimes you'll start crying or laughing or yawning for no reason. And it's still a mystery, but how important would this be for Gareth, if we could help him have an OBE? Because he's so like fixated on it. He wants to have an OBE. He's trying. He's right there along with us. And for a guy like him, oh, look. Check this out, y'all. I've done something. Something's gone awry here. I've got two heads in one screen. All right. Yeah, now we're cooking. This is what live is all about right here. It's kind of trippy. But anyways, I figured we could talk to him, I don't know, the processor might have just kicked in or something. But we could talk to him, and I might screw it all up. So, first things first, this week we're going to be doing the Fringe FM podcast at some point. I'm hoping by the end of the weekend I will have it recorded and done. So that's coming up. Make sure you go to fringe.fm and support that. But I know you're waiting to hear the podcast first, and honestly, I wouldn't support anything I haven't heard yet. Right? So this is going to be like a bi-monthly podcast that me and the crew are doing at Fringe FM. And, that, and that's it. Other than that, great OBE experiences. I had one this morning. It was short. My large coffee and cigarette for the show. I had one this morning. It was very short, but it was cool. I got out. I moved around. I got around here. I went out the door, and I went right back to my body. But it's kicking in again, and it was just as good as the one before. The one I had, a long time ago. It just didn't last very long. And that's the whole thing. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get everybody on that page, right? So I think I have. Let me try to fix this. Let's try to fix this double-headed thing before we talk to Gareth. But there's Gareth right there. Maybe I can just. No, we don't want to. We want to eliminate that one, right? Yeah. Boom. There we go. Okay. So that's Gareth. And there's a picture of him and his drums. And he's also got a picture of his dog. And he's such a cool guy, man. So what I'm going to do is play some of our conversation. And I hope you like it. I think it's cool. And I'll just talk my part. And I don't know. I just want to do this. I don't know why. Let's see. Let me see. Where should I start? Because some of this stuff is personal, Let's see. Where do I start? Because we were talking about my dad. I don't really want to talk about my dad's stuff on the air, let's see. Let's pick up where we start to talk about Corbin, right? So I asked him, it's kind of awkward sometimes talking to him because he's older. As long as he's in a good mood, we get along. But his whole mind and his spirit is focused around money. He's focused around the material world. My son's very material, right? But he's a Taurus, so I don't, what am I gonna say? So here we go. Let's see if I can do this. You got to remember, Gareth is British too, so I don't know if this is gonna work or not. Let's see. Let me try this. Let's go. Let's do this. So I told him I said, look, his whole mind is focused on money, right? Pretty much. Yeah.
Your son's lucky to have you, though.
There we go. So Corbin likes his job, dude, but he's got, I guess, an okay girlfriend. He's learning to love himself and take care of himself. And that's all I ever wanted for my side of things. I just want my son to love himself, and he does. Maybe a little too much sometimes. Like he's got that big head stuff going on. But I mean, I grew up with that kind of don't love yourself thing, so I wanted him to make sure that he had that. Like it's it's for his confidence.
How old is he?
He's about to turn 20. And then by that time, he actually did turn 20, right? So I think it's weird because I'm 42. I got a 20-year-old son. So when I talk to him, it's like having a son that's like your best friend too. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But I do feel bad about talking about things because I want to talk about you more, But yeah, he's 20.
Holy shit. Wow. You seem too young to have a son that age.
Really?
Amazing.
I'm 42.
I wish I had kids.
Yeah. Well, I'm 42. I'm not that young, But my dad was 27 when he had me. How old was I when I had Corbin? I think I was 21 or 22. But yeah, I'm 42 now.
You look good for your age.
Thanks, man. I got married at a really young age, I guess. It's all part of the plan. I learned a lot of lessons when I was younger. It was the right thing to do, I guess. We kind of fell in love. She got pregnant. So I thought, man, might as well do the marriage thing, right?
It's all to do with what circumstances present themselves and what direction you decide to choose. Every minute of your life is dictated by your choices.
I agree with you, man. Well, thanks, bro. I mean, I'm feeling like hell, though. I helped my dad put on a roof, and I guess I haven't been working hard. Haven't done any hard labor, and so I kind of got sore, and I feel like a wuss because I haven't been sore in a long time. For any reason. I used to go to the gym all the time. Now I just help put on one roof and I got sore, man. It's crazy. Yeah.
Thanks, bro. I'm feeling like hell, though. I helped my dad put on a roof and I can barely walk from the soreness.
That's my part, Gareth. You can't say my part. Well, here's Gareth's part. That's my part. Gareth, don't say my part, dude. Sometimes here.
Get yourself in a hot bath with Epsom salts. They used to help a lot with my muscle cramping.
Everybody says that. I don't really have a bathtub. I had one in Florida though. This is a pretty cool thing to do though. I promise you I will find a better AI voice for you, Gareth, because I know you can't talk. So this is the best one I can find at short notice. There's got to be a better one though. But yeah, man, I did a lot of stuff when I was younger, honestly.
I live with a lot of regret, my friend.
Yeah, me too, I guess. Well, what do you mean though? Like you live with a lot of regret? I guess that being in that position kind of makes you think about those things, right?
Because of choosing B instead of A.
Yeah, I do too, but that's why we're both older and wiser now. I guess we want to live life and we want to experience stuff, and then later we regret stuff because of the bitch of it all, you know? But yeah, I get what you're saying.
In one of those, that's for sure. LOL.
You're one of those too, huh? I've made some pretty bad mistakes, some pretty bad impulsive choices in my life. And, you know, I think maybe this is one of the bigger reasons why I got into the lighting the void and the OBE stuff. Because, well, I guess you could say when I was younger, one of the biggest reasons why I didn't do certain things is because, or I did a lot of stupid things, is because life didn't make sense to me. I was angry at it, you know. I don't know if angry is the word. I would say more like it doesn't make sense anyway. So what's the point? And then even after that, I started having anxiety. So I made a lot of bad decisions too, man. I get it.
I've made some pretty bad impulsive choices in my life too, brother.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're older and wiser now, right? I think. I like to think I'm wiser, but that doesn't mean that you're wiser when you get older. Everybody says that, but it doesn't always mean that, right? At least I don't think so. But yeah. I get it, man.
It's all part of the learning experience, right? I'm not coming back, though.
You're not coming back. So here's the thing. When Gareth said that, I had a hard time. I don't know what to say to Gareth sometimes when he says things like that. Because I'm not in his position. I don't have ALS. I don't know what it's like. But I did say this. So I said that you say that consciously, man. You say that now. But your soul may want to come back. I don't know. But either way, I hope to hang out with you regardless of what realm we're in. Because we're buddies, and we'll always be buddies. Just like the rest of us. All of us void walkers will always be buddies. At least I think that anyways, you know. And he can, trust me, Gareth can joke. He's a jokester too. Sometimes he'll throw in some pretty funny ones. I'm not going to lie to you. But the more awkward jokes, the more funny. But I'm just warming you guys up to this. So I want you guys to experience this. So when I do ask him the deeper questions, you'll be used to it. Because when he speaks, remember, I think he has to speak with his eyes. And then his caretaker, Richard, actually types this stuff to me. So back to the experiences though, Gareth. I mean, they were all tough and they all led me to here, but I mean, yeah, maybe that's the reason.
The experiences could be what led you down this path of questioning reality and being where you are.
Well, this one definitely does. I've had some bullshit pain in the ass stuff in this lifetime for sure, man. I don't know if I asked for it or why or whatever, but you know, I've definitely had some bullshit pain experiences, like a lot of people have. You know, they say you ask for it, or this is what you wanted to experience in your life. Your soul did, but I don't know about that. I really don't. We don't know that to be true, you know? But maybe we did.
Absolutely agree. Also, it's almost impossible for me to comprehend anything outside of this 3D world. How I am in the ether may be completely different to this. I may be an asshole, LOL. What I miss mostly is playing my drums and having a cigarette. I have learned not to say fag to Americans as that has different connotations, LOL.
Oh, yeah. So, man. And then he goes on to say, we say fag here in the, for a cigarette, right? So that's kind of where I wanted to go with that. So if you guys think that that's a cool thing, like I could ask him deeper questions, let me know, you know. I want to do it. I really do. I want to hear what Gareth has to say. I mean, he's already talked about some deep stuff. And I just wanted to test that out to see what you guys think, because it's really the only way that we'll be able to hear his voice, you know. And I want his voice heard on this show. And I'll tell you why. Just real quick. And then we'll get into the Monroe stuff. So when I came back to Arkansas, and if you guys remember, I was reading what was I reading? I was reading all those books that he was talking about that kind of scared him, you know, about the afterlife. And I was on the verge of going my own way, because I've been doing this for years, right? You talk, no matter who you talk to as a guest, eventually you start talking about the same things. They start saying the same things. And for me, I wasn't penetrating deep enough. Like, I could only penetrate into the void so far. And then it was just like a block. No matter how many shows I did, and being back in the shack was very depressing. Not having a Christmas with the people that I had a Christmas with before was very depressing, because I've only had 2 or 3 Christmases in my life. And here I am feeling sorry for myself, just so much. Just feeling sorry for myself, right? And then this guy hits me up, Gareth. And imagine the shape that I'm in, thinking, I've got every reason in the world to feel sorry for myself, to be upset about everything. And if it wasn't for Gareth, I'm not so sure Lighting the Void would still be here. Just to be honest with you. This guy has inspired me so much, and I want his voice heard so bad, man. Like I do. And we've had some deep conversations. That was just like the tip of a conversation. And I don't know. You guys give me some feedback on that. Tell me what you think. Also, another listener hit us up today in the Discord, Jesse. And if you want to call in, you can. Jesse says, anybody have experiences and knowledge on autism, teens and out-of-body experiences? My kiddo is really hip deep into it right now. His upbringing has always been steeped in the spiritual, and I'm not talking about New Ageism and crystals, fun as that can be. It's a part of his life from both sides of the lineage. There are no ways to tie a person down if you don't want it happening, but despite the challenges and anxiety, he doesn't want that, and I don't want to have to. So I get it. And when it happens to me unintentionally and I feel it being triggered and coming on for a few days, it startles me and blows my proverbial wig back. And lately, I'm digging more into what external factors and cycles propel or ignite out-of-body experiences, because I'm certain that there are some just wondering if anybody else has gone through this with a teen who's sensitive. So, yeah, like some of these things I would rather just hear your story, Jesse, if you can call in at some point in time and tell us about it, because I just think this is super interesting. So I asked her if she'd call in, and she said, I'll try my hardest during upcoming show nights to be awake for the full live broadcast. We run on a farmer schedule, so this really ramped up for him in this last week or so at the same time as me. We both woke up to each other hearing each other yell in the middle of the night and bumped heads in the stairwell. He was running for our bedroom while I was sprinting to his. No actual hollering took place, of course. And this morning at breakfast, he said he kept feeling himself being pulled out of body. And he said it felt like being rocked in a computer chair. He explained best as he could that he would get a little panicky and will himself to stay, and it would feel like magnets. See, he's having this person's having real OBEs. If he's saying it feels like magnets, he's having OBEs. Who is calling me? This is Alex Exum. Alex, I'm live on the air, brother. You're live on Lighting the Void.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to curse.
It doesn't matter. What's up?
I was just checking in to see what. I'm sorry. I'm watching the Dodgers-Padres game.
You're live, bro. So if you're doing criminal things, everyone's gonna hear you.
Yeah, no, of course. When am I not doing criminality? No, but I just wanted to see when we're recording tomorrow. I didn't mean to call in the show. What are you your show on?
Well, actually, I was talking about Gareth Williams, a guy who had ALS that reached out to me, wanted to talk about out-of-body experiences, and another listener whose child has autism, and they're both having out-of-body experiences. And I know that we're doing the first Fringe FM episode on out-of-body experiences, so I figured this might as well, amp it up.
That sounds perfect. So, yeah, that's why I was calling to see when we were recording, but I guess I'm going to tune into the show now to do a little homework for tomorrow's show.
Right. All right, brother.
If that's what you're talking about. So what time are we recording? Or you want to say it on air? Text me.
Yeah, I'll text you.
Have a good show. Sorry to interrupt.
All right, brother.
All right. Love you, baby. Bye.
Third, man, people don't call me when I'm on air. It's like people don't even know I'm doing a show. But no, that's super interesting. If he said it feels like magnets, he's having an OBE experience, because that magnetic feeling is what it feels like when you're out. I had the same thing happen this morning and the morning before that. One was a little fuzzy, but the other one was perfect. And as soon as you're out, and as soon as you're next to your body, you have to get away from your body. You just have to, because the closer you are, for me, it feels like someone has their hand on my head. Like when you have a little kid that's running at you and you just put your hand on his head and he's like swinging at you, trying to hit you, and you could just pull him around. That's what I feel like when I have an OBE. Like someone has their hand on my head and they're just kind of dragging me back to my body. But the further away you get from your body, the better. Every single time. So let's go to the chat. Let's see who's here. Prag Magic. What's up, brother? I ain't seen you in a long time. Grant gets out. Gypsy Jenny, Dan, Jane, Deacon. Let's see. Dutchy, what's up? Grant says, sounds like a cool segment you could do with Gareth. You guys can put out whatever you want to share. Yeah, man. I just want people to hear what he has to say. That's it. Seriously. Because you and I don't know. I may get LS later in my life, but the probabilities are that we won't. So here's a guy who's trapped in his physical body. Like we talk about, well, you're more than your physical body. You're more than this meat suit, You're more than this and that. But here's a guy that is actually experiencing this, and you can hear it when he says certain things about, man, he's ready to get out. He's ready to go on. He even jokes. You'll hear this later, but he even jokes about like finding a poor soul so that he can like possess, but he's joking most of the time. But even being trapped in it, he's like a mind, and he's a brilliant dude, but a mind that's trapped in a body. Can you imagine what that's like? Can you imagine how important it would be if OBEs were the norm? If we had developed a system of OBEs so easy that even Gareth, who's in pain and struggling and things like that, suffering, if we developed something where he could actually calm himself to a point and get out of body anytime he wants, wouldn't that be amazing, right? That would be amazing, for sure. So
this is Robert Monroe. And
let's hear this one about breaking through barriers.
Session. Again, we return to ROMC, this time for a special study in consciousness. As we pick it up, ROMC has just completed moving into Focus 12 and then begins in this new form of translation.
I just very gently sort of floated up to my platform and got very relaxed on my platform, but all of a sudden I saw myself on my platform in a different kind of a position. It's like I had some kind of earphones on, and it's like I connected by a light beam. It's like some energy earphones, and it's like I had a kind of a typewriter too. It's sort of a
This is weird.
comical sight, but I just saw myself like I'm taking some dictation. And this beam that's connected to my earphones is a light beam that is just a connection between an aspect of myself in another energy level where I would just receive some dictation. And I could hear some words start. And I guess it's like I'm going to just be taking down this dictation. And I'll see what's being dictated to me. I'll hear what's being dictated, I guess.
Maybe. If you buy it.
It's like sometimes I do this automatic typing where I just sit down and take dictation, but it's like I see I'm typing and the words are coming as I'm typing and I can see it. It's okay. I'll just have to. I always find myself resisting it a little bit, but I got to let the energy flow and just let it go. Okay, it's coming in a typing rhythm. It's sort of interesting, and the words are coming like this. We are.
Do you really think that that's the case? Do you really think that this is real? Honestly. I mean, this is about breaking through conscious barriers. She's relaxed herself into focus 10. She's put herself into focus 12. And now she's claiming that an entity's talking to her. And she, instead of it just communicating with her, she's at some kind of like typewriter thing where she's typing the words out. It could be that whatever's communicating with her, it could be deeply her subconscious. Or it could be an entity, but either way, maybe it's filtering itself through the idea of typing on a typewriter. You know? Maybe.
Speaking through this method as another form.
Yeah, that could be it too.
Tapping in to the consciousness level of this energy being, to help her to interpret some of the experiences that have been taking place in her level of consciousness. We would like to speak on the nature of consciousness and to interpret the experiences which have been happening. It is important to describe to this entity the nature of these experiences to help to clarify the overall purpose of the journeys that are taking place. The learning can take place on many levels through experience and also through the knowledge that is interpreted through these experiences. And this soul and energy form is being taken through the lessons as a part of her own growth and her own levels of understanding. But it is also a method which is helpful in the growth and understanding of others. Therefore, this is why the specific experiences and lessons are done in many different forms, because the learning process is a creative process, and therefore we use all aspects of the creative nature of each soul. Creativity is the very essence of life, And therefore, this creativity is a means of bringing through the lessons and experiences in a form that is not only understandable to this soul, but to others. We speak on the nature of consciousness because this is what has been taking place in the journeys of this energy.
Salvador says, I don't know the context she's in, but I believe it's real to her. Most people have no reason to lie, even less so about the paranormal. Well, you really believe that? You really believe that? I mean, I don't think that this sounds real to me too, for hers. But what you said about most people have no reason to lie, even less so about the paranormal, brother, I'm not trying to be a negative nanny here, but I've caught people in lies about the paranormal, red-handed. I've seen sometimes the reasons why people lie are trickier than we think, you know. Sometimes it has to do with validation. Sometimes it has to do with attention. Sometimes it has to do with they're just bored and they want some excitement in their life. But that's the only part of what you're saying I disagree with. There are plenty of reasons to make up stories about the paranormal and lie about them, just like any other lie.
It is a journey into the various levels of consciousness, and all aspects of the self are in use. The sight, the sound, the touch, the feel, aspects of the physical time self. But within the deeper levels of the self, there are other dimensions of understanding, and this is what was being interpreted on the level of knowing, which is the level which goes outside of time and the level that goes into other dimensions of the consciousness. The time dimension of consciousness is that dimension where all the physical senses are at work, and therefore this is why there is a connection between the physical senses when these teachings are taking place and when the energy of self experiences on different levels. It is through these senses in the time dimension that we are able to help the self interpret and understand what takes place, because this is the level of the conscious level of the soul, and therefore this is the level in which the interpretation is being made. But from the deeper level of experience and the level of knowing, this is on a timeless level, and it is a difficult task to get through the lessons and the experiences and the knowledge that is tapped into on this level, because it is.
Don't you think that what I would say to this entity first and foremost is I would be like, okay, I understand whatever you're trying to teach me is like a difficult thing. It's difficult for you to say what you want to say, so you have to explain all this stuff. But if you could just for a moment find another way to do it other than this typing, like speak and spell thing, because we're a little bit more advanced than that. Give us the benefit of the doubt, you know? That's what I would say.
On different energy, it is understood on a different energy vibration. However, we must work now with what we have to work with, and as we proceed, we will find other means of communicating on the levels of other consciousness experiences. We would like to speak of a level of consciousness which is that level where the human self exists in the earth's form, and that level of consciousness is that level which is in touch with the energies of the physical forms of the earth. It is the physical level of the physical self being in touch with the similar levels of the earth. And this level of consciousness is that level whereby the soul has the experiences of growth. However, it is also that level whereby the soul has the experiences of questioning the purpose and of doubting, and the levels whereby there is not the inner understanding of the higher purpose of experience. The conscious level of the conscious
Don't you think, like,
that,
don't you think this would wear you out? Wouldn't this wear you out? If this was the way that you were interpreting, like, channeled information? I would just be like, listen, you heard her sigh, right? She went, oh. Like, it's tough. Like, it's a tough thing to channel all this stuff. So that kind of makes me think that it's real a little bit too, because if she's really channeling, then she just has to say what she's, what it's feeding her, and if it's feeding it to her this way, this would be exhausting for me. It's fascinating info though. It just would be exhausting for me.
Level where actually the self is taught to understand its own nature, and these are also the same levels that exist in the dream state of the individual. There are several aspects of this conscious level of consciousness. The conscious level is that level whereby the soul is in touch with its experiences that relate to the physical plane, and these are the experiences that are interpreted even in the dream state to help the soul to understand the nature of their own experiences and emotional levels. This conscious level is not a conscious level as you know it, because it is that level that is always in touch with the physical. And often many souls are not in touch even with their conscious level in the waking state or in the dream state. Most souls that are not in touch with their own physical attunement, with their own physical attunement to self or with the earth level, are out of balance because they are not aware of the energy the energy flows even within their waking state. These souls that are not in touch with their consciousness level are living out of balance because they are not even in control of the own energy that flows through their mental selves. And through.
Do you guys agree with her on that? Regardless if it's an entity talking to her or not, do you agree with that? That makes a lot of sense, actually. The subtle energy is a thing that's talked about in the esoteric a lot. Subtle energy, right? Being able to feel it, be in tune with it, to tap into it. And when you have an out-of-body experience, it's a very subtle thing, right? It's almost like a delicate thing, a very brief moment where you can pass, where you can get out of body in between sleep and awake. I kind of agree with that. I do.
Through their emotional selves. A large part of human nature is in this position to be not awake to the happenings of the conscious level of existence, which takes in their relationship to their physical senses, the physical self, and also to the energy levels of the earth and the same energy levels of other beings. Therefore, before a soul is able to tap into the deeper aspects of the self, the knowing aspects that tap into other dimensions, it's extremely important to break through this level of consciousness to become aware of where the self is in relation not only to itself but in relation to its centering point in the universe.
Holy
on
crap.
This level. As each soul gets in touch with its centering point on each level of consciousness, it then is able to move into another state. And
so listen. Check this out. So here again is another parallel with an OBE person talking about exactly about what some of the deeper mysteries are in the occult. Now, if you follow the Tarot channel and all the other stuff that I've been doing, the whole cube of space thing, once you kind of learn about the levels that they go through, well, we know the Hermetic levels, right? We know theurgy or magic, alchemy, and then the stars, or, the moon, the sun, and the stars. But it's also like when you do so magic is the pentagram, alchemy is the hexagram, and then the stars is obviously the constellations. And then there's a star for every Sephira or planet too, that has every, there's a 6-pointed star, 7, 8, 9. There's also shapes, dodecagons, all kinds of stuff. But what it's really showing you is the holographic universe. Now, Israel Regardie wrote about this in his book too, that once you start increasing your awareness and consciousness, you start to understand that you're the center of this creation. So when you begin the states of like magic and you're drawing your circles and doing all this stuff, you're pretending to be at the center of creation. It's like a pretend thing, this is what you're doing. But then later on, as you get into it, you start realizing this isn't really a pretend thing. Like, we all have our spheres of sensation and we can map them out geometrically too. And we're all at the center of it. And in turn, you start realizing, oh, so my aura isn't just this like colored thing around my body. It's everything that's being created around me in this sphere of sensation. And these different stages or levels of magic are teaching me this geometrically as well. in all of the sides of these, like, say, for instance, the cube of space and the Sefer Yetzirah, not only are we realizing that we're in this kind of hypercube thing, but that these energies are represented by certain spaces on the cube. It gets pretty crazy. And so what she's saying here is kind of the same thing, right? Like, a person that you're not even aware of where you are relative to the rest of reality that's around you. So before you can even get to that place, you have to be aware of the energy, the subtle energy that she's talking about. And most of humanity isn't even aware of it. They're not aware of, like, how powerful they are. And when I say powerful, don't take it as like God power, but more like you're not aware of what you're actually manifesting and creating and how this is working in your reality,
Another aspect of its own dimensions, but it is important to come into that knowing a level of even the consciousness levels. Therefore, each soul must break through those barriers that would keep it from experiencing its own nature. And this is why it is important for souls to not withdraw from experiences of all types, to be involved in all levels of relationships and all levels of experience on the earth plane, to be opened into an understanding of their consciousness. The desire to know the self is a very important aspect of breaking into this first level of human consciousness. That desire to know is the first important aspect. There are many souls who desire not to know, but to cut off an understanding of the true nature of self, and therefore this fear of knowing will put a barrier and can lock a energy self into one position during this whole time span of the earth's life. However, souls are often forced to have experiences which they fear, and this is why on the earth level this is why there are many types of experiences that have to be set up for the soul to experience the deeper, to experience more a breaking through into other levels, because it is important for souls to break through the levels, and this is where the cycles of the what is called death cycles and the cycles of what is considered tragedy on the earth level are actually cycles that humans have to go into in order to break into other levels of consciousness. Some souls, when they experience the breakages of time and experience the losses of other energy forms around them, can open up into an understanding of self through experiences. But there are other souls who go further into locking into a time. They lock themselves into a time capsule, which is the emotions that are put around the self, the emotions of fear, and very much the emotion of self-protection from inner knowledge. The emotion of the fear comes from that fear of hurt, which is...
All right, we'll be right back. We got to do the radio station thing too. Listen, for the Fringe FM podcast and the live stream, hopefully we'll get to a certain level of support, which won't take much at all. But when we do, we'll cut out these ads. These ads, there's only one or two that we have to play per hour. But these ads pay for the licensing for us to be able to play whatever songs we want, whatever music we want on the station. There's another level of support that we can get to once we get to that, and I forget how much it is, but it's nothing. But once we get to that, these ads are going to go bye-bye. But I still enjoy grabbing a coffee. Grab a coffee, grab a smoke, go to the bathroom, whatever. We're going to listen to the rest of this channeling and maybe talk a little more, maybe, with Gareth, maybe, when we come back.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month, at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my two kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady and the Ad Council.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
just can't penetrate deep enough into the void, can we? All right, let's pick up where we left off. This is called Breaking Through Barriers. A channeled message from ROMC, I guess what her name is, who's in Focus 12 at the Monroe Institute. Let's go.
The fear of destruction. But the important aspect of growth is to have these protections destroyed around so that as these forms that have built around the self are destroyed, those emotional forms that hold the self down, as they are destroyed, then the soul is at the level of going into the aspects of consciousness where there is the knowing and the understanding and the flowing of energy that is on a timeless level. There are souls that are living in this understanding and in this higher energy flow, this higher consciousness level, who live on the earth's plane. And these are souls who are working in the exchange of energy, where they are helping other energy forms in an understanding of their higher selves. We speak on this because this is the aspect of what we are helping to teach this soul. It is important for this soul to break through those barriers that have been built around, barriers that have built not only in a lifespan of this lifetime, but there are certain patterns and barriers that a soul builds around itself. And it is important to break through these in order to break into the timeless level of existence while on the earth plane. This is the very essence of why a soul steps into the physical body, to be able to break through the time barrier of the consciousness, the earth's consciousness, the physical consciousness, into that timelessness of knowing and that timelessness of being in the highest form of energy that is within each pattern of each energy self. This pattern is there within the very nature of consciousness of each soul, and this pattern is in the consciousness of all living forms. And as each soul is able to break through the barriers into an understanding of their own flow and rhythm, and an understanding of their own attunement with the universal patterns, it is then that the great creativity flows, the timeless energies that flow.
That's when you get in the zone.
The soul or the self, the timeless knowledge and the timeless experiences that help the soul to grow into the understanding of the purpose of existence. And this has been the basic reason for bringing this soul into the various levels of experience, just to help to break through the barriers. And that this is a slow process, but it is also a process whereby every soul must operate. Every soul has many factors working at all times. There are many dimensions and patterns that are a part of the inner and the outer natures. And as the soul gets in attunement with all of the patterns, but it begins with the inner pattern as it follows into the flow of its inner attunement, there is a breakthrough into many dimensions and many patterns of life and understanding of all knowledge, as all the knowledge that exists within the universe, it is right within the pattern of every soul, the pattern of every self. There is that polar existence of the highest form of energy, the highest form of light, and also the polar aspect, the other pole that helps to bring the balance. It is like the Earth with its north and south pole, the magnets that attract and also helps to keep balance. There is within each soul the polar existence, the higher, the opposite that help to keep
Thank you, whoever
balance.
just bought a shirt.
And this is
it doesn't say your name. I'm sorry. It doesn't say who you are, who bought a shirt, but thank you. So listen, and Trey and Alina for subbing to the channel. So listen, what she just said. If you guys, man, you guys got to go listen to the podcast that I did with Nico on nuclear medicine men. That 2-in-1 thing that she's talking about, the balancing thing, is the. I mean, God, we've talked about it so many times on this broadcast, but I don't know who's coming in and leaving, so I try to say the same things. But that balancing of the poles inside yourself is everything. Whether it's the hemispheres of the brain, whether it's the anima or the animus, the masculine, the feminine, all of that stuff is your peak authentication, your peak energy, your peak awareness. Like you're just at peak everything when you can find that balance of those two poles, right? Which just, I guess, explains like twilight, so to speak, or the golden dawn, if you want to look at it that way.
Why souls come into situations where they operate on energy levels that help to bring them into forms of balance that are normal and are on a level where the soul is not in control of these methods, whereby they are helped to be brought into balanced points. But if once a soul is awakened to the knowledge of its own existence through the desire to know, to be, and to come into oneness with all consciousness levels, then there is an ultimate creativity that flows and brings the soul into a timeless level of existence while in the physical body.
From the perspective, from the viewpoint.
I can't hear Robert.
Speaking, are there any specific messages that might help us at this moment?
The specific point is to use the knowledge which you have received, always to put these, these principles into action and to put them into use. And by using principles that you receive through your guidance and through that guidance that comes through all the levels, that seems to be a oneness, that seems to, the principles that seem to come up again and again, put these always into action in your own life and the work that you're doing. And as these principles are put into action, it is like rolling a ball down the hill. It will go on its own energy. It will work on its own energy levels. This is why we teach these lessons are being taught, that unless they are put into action, there will be a stopping point in the energy levels of those who know. Once you know what you must do, if you know and do not do it, there is more of a destructive blockage in your energy than if you do not know. You must put the principles to work in your own life. And as you put these principles to work, then they become live and are operating in a very live form.
Yeah, anybody that's followed their true calling, or followed their heart, or followed what excites them. That's kind of how it starts, I think. So you follow what excites you at first, right? What you're passionate about, what excites you. So the big question in my mind would be, and this is from the very base practical level though, but the biggest question would be, if you had all of the money and all of the love in the world, if you had all of the abundance, right? If you had all that, then what would you do? Really think about that for a minute. If you had all of this stuff that you believe you have to go get in order to be fulfilled, let's say you had it, then what would you do after that? That's what you need to be doing. So that's just where you start. And a lot of times just starting there, listening to that part of yourself is so hard because it goes against everything that you've been taught. Everything. All of the stuff, all of what your parents taught you, your school, your guidance counselor, the way you're supposed to be living your life, the flow of life and the way society has made things, blah, 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 blah. And these are barriers. Okay. It could be, I mean, your heart could tell you to do all those things, but that's the question you should ask yourself wherever it lines up. Right. And then once you start going down that road, that's just the start of it. Then you have to start learning to let the higher self and that subtle energy lead you. You have to, look for signs, synchronicities, things like that, things that lead you, that put you in that flow. And the bitch of it is sometimes like you get tested, or when you're doing this, you'll vibrate on a level. I don't want to start talking a certain way about this because certain people start thinking, yeah, you're better than everybody. That's bullshit. You're not better than anybody in any kind of way. But you'll start vibrating on a level where others may not be conscious of that level inside them yet. And so what they want to do to feel safer in their environment where all these blocks are is try to bring you back to that level. And it's a whole psychological thing. It's an energy thing too. So those are the only things that keep us from bumping down the road and following what she's talking about, so to speak, right? And it does get harder and harder because the higher you get into it, the more, I don't want to say independent you get, because that's not the case. You could actually find all kinds of love, relationships, friends, whatever. But there'll be a lot of like resets that happen, a lot of tests, a lot of challenges, that they get, in my opinion, they get tougher and tougher. And I don't know if she's even talked about that. She's just saying, tap into that energy and go, but it's not always that easy.
This seems an appropriate time to stop and turn over and put the other side of the cassette on.
Put that
we will
cassette
continue
back
with
in
some
the
interesting
recorder.
questions. Most interesting. So turn the cassette over now, and we'll begin again.
Does this sound bad that I miss the 80s? I miss cassette tapes and like boom boxes and turning the antenna outside and only having a phone that I had to stick my finger in and turn to call. I miss those days. I love technology though, so whatever. Maybe it's just the nostalgia of it that I miss.
The reality, and that is the lesson which the Christ came to teach the earth, only to show that way, not to talk about that way, but to live that way. And therefore, as each soul lives that which they truly believe, it will be a shining example for others in more ways than one.
Who then was the Christ who came to us?
The Christ was the highest level of consciousness that was released in human form. It was that level of consciousness that is the very highest level of energy and light that came into a human body to show the human level, that within each self, which is within each form, there is that very highest self, that highest energy self, and this Christ consciousness came into human form to show to man that it is possible for all souls in even the physical level to be released into that very highest self, because as a soul is released into that highest self, there is no time in consciousness. And that highest consciousness, the self, that highest level, whether it is in the earth, whether it is in the earth's body or the earth's level of consciousness, or is within another dimension, it does not matter. The only level is that level that exists in timelessness, and therefore this soul, this highest light being of the highest form, came to show the earth level, that there is no separation, that there is only the highest level of consciousness, the highest energy, which is that energy of love. That highest form of power is not physical power. The highest form of power is that highest level of love, and therefore this consciousness, this Christ consciousness that came in the form of a man called Jesus, knew and experienced the highest levels of power, and that is the level of love. Power is misinterpreted on the physical level to mean that which is acquired and that which is used to separate one from another, to make one stand out as a stronger ego or a more important self. This is how many souls interpret power, and they separate themselves from themselves and from others. But the Christ consciousness would not accept the earth interpretation of power, but lived in that highest level of love at all times, and was in communion with all souls on all levels. Therefore, the souls that were out of tune with themselves lived in a state of threat because of this very high energy that threatened to invade them and to release them. And this was...
Is that not exactly what I just said, though? That, like... That's exactly what happens, that vibration, right? Can you imagine once everybody taps into that level, or even once we tap into that level, like, I mean, it's easy to open your heart to the people that your family and friends. That's easy. I mean, it's like your nature. Well, it's not easy for some people, but to really open your heart to everything, to life, love, and everyone. And then, they said that guy, I know his name wasn't Jesus. That's the name the Greeks gave him. Our whole timetable is based around this guy's, birth and death. But let's say the other books that called him, the rabbi or Yeshua ben Joseph, right? That guy. They said he knew everybody's name. And not even like in the psychic sense, but he was connected in so much, like it shocked people that he just knew everybody's name the moment he looked at them. That's how connected he was. Whether you believe it or not, that's high vibration, man.
Why Jesus, the physical person, was destroyed, because it was difficult for those who were of a different level of enlightenment to receive this very high power of energy, which seemed to contradict their own natures, and therefore they turned upon this energy, trying to destroy their own. It was a way of trying to destroy the threat of being released into knowing and understanding themselves. Therefore, they killed the physical body of the man called Jesus, which merely released this energy and this knowledge to many others. But down through the ages, through time, there has been a misinterpretation of this Christ, because it has been used in other different forms of power. Man has taken the the life of this very high energy, this high love energy being, this very high self, which is the Godhead, and has brought him down into their level of consciousness and has interpreted his life on their own level, and therefore have pulled this understanding down into the earth levels of consciousness in many ways, and this is why it is interpreted so differently, the life of this Christ, because each religious order is on a certain level of consciousness and can only interpret that which it knows and understands. And this is why the important truth is that which is understood on the knowing level, on the living level. The Christ consciousness that came into the earth is still that pure consciousness, but the interpretations of this consciousness vary a millionfold according to consciousness levels of the earth and the consciousness levels of those time organizations that interpret what they want to understand. But as this Christ has been interpreted in the wrong ways, that is when many souls get locked into the wrong understandings, because instead of truly tuning in and knowing and experiencing that Christ self within, they lock themselves into interpretations that can hinder them. This is where we say that the true knowledge, the true understanding is that which comes from the tuning in, the true self tuning in to the true nature of all other consciousness levels around, and that true nature of Christ still exists on the earth. That true nature that walked in the physical plane is still of that very highest level, and it is possible for souls to tap into that true nature. But to try to interpret that nature is a means of destroying and holding down and putting limitations upon this nature it is not important for man to try to interpret with his mind. It is not important for man to put down what he conceives. It is more important for man to tune in to his own nature, that knowing level, and then he knows and understands the truth. But by trying to interpret what they think is the truth, it is often limiting. It is often not only limiting the self, but limiting and many others by false concepts. The Christ came truly to show, to live the truth, and this is the only principle which is important in the earth level, is to live those truths which you know within your own being to be important, to be that which does not bring separation. The Christ consciousness was separated from nothing, and that's why the death of the body was merely a point of release, was that lesson which the earth had to learn, that the earth continually limits itself by cutting off that which it truly needs to know. And
so that's a good point too. Corey says, ever notice, and I'm speculating as a non-Christian, so I've no dog in the fight, but if I was a devil or demon who wanted to pervert the Jesus story, an awful lot of channelers get reinterpretation. Yeah, they do. But, you know, every single spiritual text that we have is channeled. You know, so when people go around saying, man, you know, like this is the word of God, and this isn't, and this is false, and this, man, if people, like, we're all going to get to that level of consciousness, even the people that you can't stand, sorry, they're going to get to that level, in my opinion, that level of consciousness at some point. They'll cycle as many times as they need to until they get to that level. So while we're all doing this and cycling and evolving and doing these things to get to that level until we wake up or whatever, we're channeling messages, just like this lady's channeling this message. And sometimes I think beings have come to the earth and have been on such a high vibration, whether it was, you know, Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus, or Krishna, I don't know what his quote real name was, or whoever, probably more than that. Maybe these are just the ones that we've heard about, or, you know, whoever. Either it's so profound to some people that they make a religion out of it because it's so evolved. It speaks so true to their soul, it makes them cry. They can feel it. That when people say, "Oh, I felt the spirit," they can feel the vibration of it, the deep truth of it. And so there's this polar thing that happens, right? People on one side of the pole, they love it so much, they indulge in it so much that they make a religion out of it. And on the other side of the pole, on the other side of polarity, it scares them so much because it's such a change, and it takes them out of their comfort level so much that they mock the person or they kill them. And even those people that killed them or martyred them, and it wasn't just Jesus, there was other people that this happened to, even those people end up loving that person again. And that's really weird that it's in our nature. Like, we get so afraid of things that we destroy it. And then when we see that that thing that we destroyed isn't even afraid of death, and the messages that it gave us, right? Well, everybody's afraid of death, but it took on death in such a high vibratory way that after it's dead, we love it again. It's really stupid. It's really weird what we do. Like, we fight raising our vibration more than just putting our energy and raising our vibration. Like, people fight change so much. So in my opinion, most of religions and all of the names, God names, demons, devils, archons, this is the God's name, whatever, planets, pagan, whatever. All of these things are just us putting names on energies that we're trying to understand. And then every time we evolve, we create a new religion, or we don't. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully religion goes out the door and we come up with something different this next time. Sorry, that's my coffee pot going off. But yeah, it's really weird how I think it's just the animal part of us that does that, because we want comfort. The animal part of ourselves just wants to stay in our little comfort zone all the time. You know, it's like a fight. And then when you, like I said, man, when you start, let's say you take in that sun energy and that star energy and you take both of them in and you start vibrating as your higher self, there's going to be all kinds of things that seem to be coming against you, and they're not coming against you. It's just a different pole that doesn't want that change, right? It's trying to pull you back. It's just like a magnet, just like when you get out of body and your physical body's energy is trying to pull you back to the physical. It just doesn't want it to change. It's not comfortable, to say the least, right?
The cutting off of this Christ consciousness was symbolic of how individual souls will cut off and try to kill their own true natures. This is the meaning of the Christ consciousness, the Christ as he lived in the earth level.
Was this the only instance where such a consciousness came to earth level?
This consciousness exists in all, is in every soul, but it comes in different forms of enlightenment. The Christ consciousness has come through many forms, has been come down in many forms of during the Earth's existence. And this is that consciousness, as we said, which is released. However, the Christ was the consciousness that was released, more able to live in its true form. But there are many levels of the Christ consciousness. We shall say that Christ consciousness exists in every soul, because the Christ consciousness is that true consciousness, that highest level of consciousness in all matter. It is that very highest form.
But had it appeared, or does it appear, or is it now, or in the past, in another consciousness, just as Jesus was? Has there been other instances such as that?
Yes, as we say, there have been other instances where the Christ consciousness has appeared, but it has been different degrees to which it has been released to the earth.
Are any of these any that we are familiar with?
There are some that you are familiar with, but there are many that you are not, because often the Christ consciousness can appear in the most simple of being, the most beautiful of souls that live of the greatest simplicity and love. But the highest forms of the Christ consciousness have come in the very simple, the highest forms has come in those who have not received the great world renown and the great world recognition. But there have been many souls who have lived up on the earth who have been released into this higher consciousness. And because they have not accepted or received the recognition, because the Christ consciousness is the highest form of love, and it is not a form of power and recognition. This is a very difficult This is a very difficult discussion because to understand the nature of the Christ consciousness, it is difficult to describe the true meaning of that which is real. To put it into words is to limit it by it's the very nature of putting into words. This is a form of limiting the true meaning of God, the true meaning of Christ. The way only to truly understand is to know and to experience this nature.
Yes, I truly understand the difficulty. Is there one now, physically alive in the earth?
Robert Monroe's always so precise,
this
right?
Christ consciousness?
Like he's like, who is it? Where is he?
This is the misunderstanding of man, to think that a one soul will return just as the form of Jesus. But this is not the way that it is to be understood. The Christ consciousness is alive within all levels of consciousness. And as it is awakened in each soul, as it is released and awakened, it is that much more released and awakened in the whole universe. This is the misunderstanding that a being in the form of one such as Jesus would return. But this is the misunderstanding. The message that the Christ, the man Jesus came to bring, is that all are the Christ consciousness, and therefore you are the Christ consciousness. I am the Christ consciousness. This soul is the Christ consciousness. But the Christ consciousness seeking to be released, seeking to know its own. The Christ consciousness is that consciousness which is the highest level of all life. It is that level of complete attunement and knowing. And the misunderstanding is that that a being would appear in some way of power. But those who appear upon the earth and claim to be the Christ consciousness, this is a sign that they are not.
Exactly. Right. So here's the thing. When you say, someone says, who do you say you are? Right. Like if you say your name, just as an example, like if you say your name, well, I'm Joseph Daniel Roop. That's my name. That's my earth name. That's my earth given name. Well, that's okay. That makes sense. Because that's like the ego thing. That's the thing that separates everybody, you know. But if someone says, who are you? What's your name? And you say, well, I am that I am. Well, yeah, well, I mean, back then that was blasphemy. Only God says those things, this idea of God. And only God says those things. And he's like, well, I am that I am. He said, well, you know, your mother and your father's calling you or whatever. Well, my mother and my father, he started pointing at everybody. You're my family. All of you. I am that I am, and you're my family. Every time they tried to, well, do this if you're God or whatever. Every time they tried to narrow him down to that thing, right? It's like poles. I'm telling you, everything is a pole, alpha and omega. If you're vibrating high and you're realizing that you're one with everything, sometimes we do. Sometimes we go back into the ego. Sometimes we get way worse. But if you're realizing the separateness and the togetherness is all the same thing, right? Like it's all part of the plan and you're cool with it. That's a good vibration. You start being that way in the world. Whether you want to get religious about it or not doesn't matter. You start being that way in the world, it's going to shake some trees, right? It's just going to shake shit up. But it has to happen until everybody gets on board. I think.
Because this is a sign that the souls that seek to be recognized as the great ego, as to seek to be recognized
I swear,
and have the energies
I
to
promise
come to
on
them.
everything. I did not pre-listen to this, right? So
This is the sign that the energies are in the wrong place. This is a sign that the soul is not released in its Christ into its highest form of consciousness, because the Christ self does not seek the recognition, to be set aside and put up in levels of energy where others will send their to worship and to adore and to idolize. This is not the purpose for which the Christ came. The Christ came, Jesus, man of Jesus, came to show an example that all have that same power, that all are a part of that. And therefore, beware of those who come and say that they are the returned Christ, because they are at the opposite pole of energy. They are the negative poles that are seeking recognition.
getting chills.
In the wrong ways, and are drawing the energies to them that are distracting the human energies of people as souls, as the energies of souls look to another to receive all their knowledge and to say that another is of the highest, that another is to be worshipped and adored. That takes the attention away from going within and knowing the truth from within the self. Therefore, no soul is to find the perfect being outside of themselves. There is no such thing as the perfect being outside. That the soul that is distracted from going within is going through a waste of energy. Every soul is a teacher of another soul. Every soul is a student, and every soul is here to learn and to teach. And this is why we say that when you find these energy, these souls that are seeking to be recognized, that this is what is considered the Antichrist, because this is not of the nature of the true Christ. And the Antichrist are these false energies that distract humans and take humans away from the real journey of knowing their own, the Christ self within, knowing that oneness. And the only journey is that journey that each individual must take alone, the experiencing, the knowing that comes from the inner attunement. And the souls that live on the power, the ego trip, have a long way to go in their journeys, because they are limiting themselves to a certain level of consciousness. And therefore they limit many other souls. Any soul that attracts and draws from other souls the energies that they use and use for the ego satisfaction are merely putting themselves and also hindering the growth of other souls. The true teacher, the true savior, so to speak, is the one who teaches souls to tap into themselves, to know the truth from their own being, and not to idolize them and say that they are the God. All souls are the God self, and as each soul is aware and taps into that higher understanding from within, they are aware that there are no levels.
So, with what she's saying there, regardless if it's coming from her subconscious or if it's coming from whatever, I can tell you right now, just the fact of what she's saying, it vibrates on a certain way. Certain people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Gives them that weird feeling in their stomach they can't handle. They don't want to hear it. But on the other hand, it's a beautiful message, right? So let me ask you this question. If what she's saying is true, so on some level that we're all a part of the Creator and we're all rising up to this consciousness, right? Which is pretty much what all of religion, mystics, whatever you want to call them, magicians, whatever, whoever's, they're all coming to this understanding. So if that's the case, and we're all together in this thing, and I believe we definitely are, right? Do you feel like right now, personally, and you can answer this in chat, you can email me, whatever you want to do you feel that love now? Right now, at this moment, do you feel a sense of connectedness? Do you feel a sense of empathy, compassion, and love towards your fellow stranger? Do you feel a sense of excitement about life and this whole thing and what we're doing? Do you feel like we're all equal on some level? Do you feel that energy right now? Because I got to be honest with you. One, I think people crave it so much that it's not here, that it's isolating all of us. I personally feel the craving of that energy, that want deep down in my soul, which is kind of like our lights, all of our lights in the void, you know, but that we don't have it right now. For some reason in this moment, I feel a massive separateness. Yeah, you know, I don't know why, I just do. Maybe people are individuating. Maybe there's a frequency to that where we individuate, we figure out who we really are and what, you know, and then we come back together and then we figure out who we really are. Who knows? But right now at this moment, I don't feel that oneness that we felt at the start of all this. So we have to get that, quote, magic, that love, that mysticism, that connected to spirit thing back. We have to get it back. And who was it that said that in the chat the other day? Mark? I think it was Mark. He said, man, I feel like the magic is gone. You know, I don't look at magic like some people look at it. People look at magic like it's something to get power over the people and reality. You know, it's really the first stage of, if you're looking at it from an esoteric point of view, magic is only the first stage of the mysteries, man. You know, it just is. It's like, if I could wipe all this out, I'd show you. Maybe I can wipe it all out. Yeah, there we go. So magic is just the first stage of the mysteries. It's like working on all this stuff down here at the bottom, and then you realize, oh, I've been deeply programmed, and I can create myself and my reality. And then you get to the higher self, like in the middle, and that's where the alchemy starts kind of working, the solar stuff, right? The moon, the sun. So there's the solar work. This is when you start realizing, oh, I'm not this high magician that's better than everybody, and and then, you know, then we die and we cross the abyss and we go back to source, so to speak. So that's just one teaching of it. And what happens to a lot of esotericists and occultists when they become adepts or they get to that alchemical work? Either they run, that's when it gets real hard, because you have to open your heart, man. You know, you have to open your heart and realize this, quote, Christ consciousness just isn't in you. It resides like a coiled serpent inside of everybody waiting to be released. And the only thing that's going to open this seed up, this flower in you, is that perfect balance, love inside yourself, and the ability to give, and that perfect balance of love and connectedness to other people. And so we can all take this journey together. But right now, I feel like if we're riding a wave of frequency of this up and down, I do feel a lot of separateness, man. I think it's really weird. And I hate to cut this lady off, but I want to say this. Like, I think it's really weird. And this happens in Tantra too, right? The mysteries of Tantra. So when these unities come together, we come together with the with the motivations of love, for the most part, or what we understand to be love. And then once we come together, the wounds that we have, whether it's the not knowing, the traumas, all the stuff, the deeper you love, the higher and the faster the wounds come out. It's like they purge out, right? And now everybody can see them. The same thing happens in relationships. If you fall deeply in love, there's no doubt about it. It's going to happen. It's natural law. The wounds are going to come out and they're going to be there to be seen. So you either heal them or you don't. Now, if these two energies can't heal them, then they separate and they individualize. They find themselves, and they come together, maybe with somebody else, whatever. And I'm not just talking about on a romantic level. I'm talking about friendships, careers, everything that we do is this coming apart and coming back together, And right now in this moment, I feel like we're in this place of individuation. This is why when you get on social media, you see everybody, I'm never doing that again, or I'm going to be single the rest of my life, or no one relates to me, or this person betrayed me. I see it all over social media. But something happened. They came together in love into that pole. The wounds came out, just like Tantra teaches us. Now they're visible, and now we have to heal them. That's all it is. And then we'll come back together again. So I feel like sometimes we have to see what's happening for what it is. Like everything is some kind of frequency wave, And then sometimes we'll vibrate at the top of a wave and others are kind of down here working their way back up that healing thing, The main issue is just unexamined bad metaphysics. Maybe.
There are truly no...
But you have to, like Aristotle was, quote, the king of metaphysics, and a lot of the stuff that he talked, well, not a lot of it, but quite a few important things that he talked about when it came to metaphysics turned out to be BS. And he examined metaphysics better than anybody.
Levels within reality. There is only
For his time.
that level of the... There is only that knowledge. There is only that understanding, that knowing of the highest form of energy, which is that love released.
One final question. What of the churches that exist in our culture, in our world today, where do they fit into this concept?
The churches are concepts in themselves that have been created through concepts. They are manifestations of concepts. And as they have manifested through various levels of consciousness, they have within them elements of the truth, but also the greatest factors that they have limiting factors, because they are outer interpretations, and they are limiting because they are working on the physical level. They are working on the outer level. It is where concepts have been taken and have been interpreted on a second level. And as each time a concept is interpreted, it gets further from the truth. It is very difficult to describe this principle, but every religion that exists on the earth, every religion is a conglomeration of many thought forms that have been put into a larger thought form. But this does not mean that this is the truth in itself. It is not the truth. The only truth is that within the self that is in touch with knowledge and the knowing and the realization. Therefore, the institutions that exist are of a second dimension. It is of a different dimension, and therefore it is further from the truth, because it is an interpretation of the truth. It is not the truth itself. And therefore, by its very nature, it can be limiting. However, for the growth of certain souls are attracted to that which they need for their growth. And therefore, souls often get, that are in a certain level of consciousness, are attracted to those levels of consciousness on the earth plane that are similar to their own, to go through patterns, to break through patterns, not only from within self, but these outer patterns. And as often it is important in the growth of a soul to work through certain thought forms of concepts, and to work through them, to release them. And as this happens, often souls can come closer to the truth. There are often no mistakes, that souls are choose to come into certain situations. There are many thousands and millions of different religious beliefs, because there are this many different concepts that have been created. But the concept is one step from the truth. But again, this is on the physical level, and the human self has to go through experiences on the physical level, and to go through these various thought forms. Experiences can happen to help release a soul into its own knowledge, and therefore the churches themselves are no different than any other thought institution. And the thought forms go through many, many levels as well. This is why the churches and all institutions go through all levels of life and death. But it's only when the death comes that life truly happens, just as the example of the Christ, the Jesus who lived. It was only when death came that the self was truly released. And the death of these thought forms, the death of these churches, shows that they are not reality. And as this death of these thought forms come, either within a person or as the death comes, as many churches go through cycles, all cycles, everything that is, even a thought form, is alive, and therefore it goes through cycles of growth. And these patterns are all important in the growth of the soul. So therefore, we are saying that they are not the truth in and of themselves, but they are paths. They are just aspects along the pathway to the truth.
And I believe now that we shall have to
Wow.
let our channel.
That was actually pretty cool. It was hard to kind of listen to because of the speak and spell thing, but that was actually pretty cool. Regardless, right? Regardless if it came deep from in her mind or if it was channeled from some other place. We do know that Robert Monroe was right there. She went through all the focus levels up to focus 12. So at the very least, she was in a relaxed state of focused consciousness, right? While she was saying all these things. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same channel, live on the Fringe FM live stream and here on YouTube, as well as TuneIn, Live 365, all that other stuff. Thanks for whoever grabbed a t-shirt and subbing to the channel, Alina and Trey. All you people that support the show, you make this happen. Without you, this couldn't happen. So thank you guys very much. Corey, you too, brother. We'll put some stuff out on YouTube for the members as well. And I love you guys. Night night. Sweet dreams.